On the heels of his address to Congress, President Zelenskyy joined our own Lester Holt virtually for an exclusive one-on-one, and Lester joins us now with that interview. Good morning, Lester.
Good morning to both of you. Throughout our conversation, President Zelenskyy challenged the U.S. and its NATO allies to do more to help his country, speaking candidly through a Ukrainian government-provided interpreter about what greater U.S. involvement would signal to the rest of the world. You once again renewed your call for a no-fly zone, but you also made the pitch for an alternative, and that's the fighter planes. Do you think that President Biden is inching closer to perhaps reconsidering transferring fighter planes to Ukraine?
Well, this is the choice for the President Biden to take, and the whole civilized world would need to take. And hopefully that choice would coincide with the choice of the Ukrainian people, because currently Russia has an advantage in the air.
President Biden has been very clear he's worried about provocations that could trigger World War III. Do you understand his concern there, and do you agree that it wouldn't take much to end up in World War III?
Well, nobody knows whether it may have already started, and what is the possibility of this war if Ukraine will fall. In this case, we have the whole civilization at stake.
The U.S. administration has raised concerns that Russia might launch a chemical attack. Do you think that would be a red line, that the U.S. would move forward and become more actively involved in combat?
I believe that Russians have already crossed all the red lines when they started shelling civilians, when they've started using cruise missiles. If they're launching intentionally those missiles against kindergartens, against schools, universities, now that is a cross of every single line. What else should we wait for?
If Kyiv falls to the Russians, does the entire country of Ukraine fall to the Russians?
Yes, Kyiv is a step, a very important step for them. That's the heart, the capital of our country. You can conquer the city, you can break the heart, but you won't be able to force anyone to love someone. That is why the heart will always remain with the Ukrainians.
And Zelenskyy told me he has no plans to step down or leave Ukraine as part of any deal as his government continues to negotiate with Russia to find an end to the brutal conflict.
It really has just been flat out remarkable to see President Zelensky's leadership.
He's fighting for his country.
Yeah. All right, Lester, thank you so much, and we'll see you on NBC Nightly News tonight.
Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Find your favorite recipes, celebrity interviews, uplifting stories, shop our favorite deals, and so much more with the Today app. Download it now.